As D.W. Griffith was creating the foundations for modern movie storytelling, it was clear that there were more than nickels and dimes to be made with motion pictures. No one knew this better than Thomas Edison.
To Edison, the technology was always related to his patents. Having the key patents, using them to control entry into the marketplace was very important, and he did the same thing with motion pictures.
Edison claimed all patents on everything, literally cameras and film and whatever you want. He owned it. He claimed he owned everything. Well, many independents went and bought French cameras, German cameras. You know, they went around Edison, which made him really irritated.
So the problem was that Edison, and I think Edison knew this, he had developed a commercial motion picture system that, you know, everyone else was ripping off. And he felt that he should get some credit for it. In fact, he felt he should get money for it. He should get royalties for it.
Edison had been suing movie competitors since the 1890s. In 1908, he became a leader in the Motion Picture Patents Company, a formidable organization that included George Eastman, the major manufacturer of motion picture film, as well as important production and distribution companies. By 1910, the Trust controlled half of U.S. theaters.
The Trust would hire detectives to track down anyone and everyone who was showing their films or showing non-Trust films and was trying to make films. And there are all these stories of being on a set one day in one of these independent Wildcat productions, and in come these hired goons who just destroy the set, destroy the cameras, intimidate people.
Even as he tried to establish total control, Edison was also creating the framework for the modern motion picture business. He was America's first movie mogul. But Edison's major competitors weren't easily intimidated.
When they came in and saw this business, this was their future. They loved it, they embraced it. They were strong men on control, to control it, and were not the type of men to be told what to do, particularly by Edison. You don't tell things like this to people like Zukor, Laemmle, or William Fox. And that spurred them into becoming their own companies, making their own films.
Carl Laemmle's response was the Independent Moving Picture Company, IMP.
And his logo was a little imp with a little pitchfork, sort of sticking it into Edison's rear end, irritating him.
While attempting to evade Trust enforcers, William Fox and Carl Laemmle fought a persistent counterattack in the courts.
After many years, 6 years of court fights, you can imagine the strain that it put my uncle under all of this time, but he would not give up, and he finally won.
In 1915, the U.S. Justice Department stepped in, declaring the Edison Trust an illegal monopoly. But by then, movie makers had already found more hospitable surroundings. As early as 1902, motion picture pioneers were traveling across the continent in search of open and inexpensive land, low labor costs, freedom from Trust enforcers, and most of all, sunshine. Like the homesteaders of the 19th century, movie pioneers with names like Lasky, DeMille, Goldwyn, Mayer, and Warner moved west. Their destination was Los Angeles and a nearby rural hamlet. It was called Hollywood.
The movies grow faster than probably any commercial form of recreation that I can think of in American history. Imagine when you're showing the first actualities at the turn of the century. You have a few hundred people viewing it. By 1910, you have 26 million people going a year, roughly a quarter of the population. By 1914, virtually every city in America that has a population of more than 4,000 people has a movie theater. America goes movie crazy.
By 1916, there were approximately 21,000 movie theaters in the United States, with an average seating capacity of 500. theater owners such as Marcus Lowe, a former furrier, had an essential piece of the action. As they appealed to more upscale audiences, theater owners began building lavish moving picture palaces. The Strand on Broadway in New York City cost $1 million. At the time, it was the most lavish movie theater ever built. It sat nearly 3,000 people. In Los Angeles, Sid Grauman, son of a San Francisco theater owner, failed as a prospector during the 1890s Alaska gold rush, but he struck it rich with grand movie palaces such as the $1 Million, and in the 20s, the Egyptian and the Chinese on Hollywood Boulevard. Theater magnate Marcus Lowe declared, "We're selling tickets to theaters, not to movies. Without theaters, movies were just cans of film." Treated like royalty in the first picture palaces, audiences could be demanding. They wanted bigger, better, and more. But that didn't necessarily mean an end to a taste for old-fashioned entertainment. With the armistice of 1918, the United States and its European allies were the winners of World War I. But victory for the American movie industry was even more decisive. Until 1914, Europe dominated international filmmaking. Headquartered in Paris, the Pathé Company operated the world's largest film studio, and Italian epics set lavish production standards. The disruption and devastation of war changed that. By the end of the conflict, the United States was the source of more than 80% of the world's films and supplied 98% of movies shown in America. In hardly more than 20 years, the American motion picture business had evolved from a cheap novelty to the country's fifth largest industry, after agriculture, transportation, oil, and steel. And it seemed to happen in less than the flicker of a frame of film.